Hi everyone, Amelia from Carnac Group. Thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here today with Philip Collins, the National Sales Manager at Polymaster. Phil, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Amelia.
So, Phil, you're using Salesforce and CPQ at Polymaster. I thought before we go in, you could perhaps share with us a little bit of detail about what Polymaster does and your role there.
Yeah, certainly. So thanks so much for inviting me onto this. It's really important that we sort of do convey a message about our experience. Polymaster, we're an Australian manufacturer of rotor-molded polyethylene tanks, specifically for chemical tanks, wastewater tanks, rainwater tanks, and other items. And we distribute our products Australia-wide and into many, many different markets, including your food and beverage, your water utilities, the mining, the civil sector, and agricultural. Our tanks are not a normal tank as such. We have many fittings. We call it tanks on steroids. So we've got big fittings that put on there. We put electronics on them, and they go into a lot of different processes around Australia, a lot of different weather conditions that they're in as well. And so they're actually built to really be strong, tough, and last in the marketplace. We've been established for 27 years, based here in Victoria, so we get right out to Australia. We've also got export as well, and we have a product which may look basic and simple, but it's a very highly complicated way in which we actually put fittings together, or at least it used to be compared to what we do. We're very much a growing business and a business that is really built on quality and high levels of communication interaction with our customers.
Perfect. And so your role there, Phil?
Yeah, so I'm the National Sales and Marketing Manager. Wear a lot of hats here because we're a family-owned business, and so I really look at how all my salespeople are interacting into the marketplace, our product managers, as well as my marketing team, and how we communicate.
Fantastic. And so you saw an opportunity there to improve quoting in your business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Amelia. I think from where we sit, I joined the business about 4.5 years ago. And when I came in, I didn't actually know anything about this industry. And I've always been in manufacturing of some description. But when I entered here, I saw a sales team that had to sell a product which required them to have a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise in tanks, in chemicals, in fittings, how those would actually play together. And when I looked at it, was that all my salespeople, if I was to grow this business, really I needed to have highly skilled, expensive sales engineers to sell this product. And that hurts a business going forward because it means it sort of narrows down my pool of talented people out there that are potentially quite expensive to actually get on board as a sales team. So what I was really seeking is to have ultimately a sales team of highly talented salespeople that were good at selling, not necessarily that they had to be an engineer or a sales engineer. So when I looked at it, putting our products together, it meant that I had a lot of complexity, which meant that if I brought a new salesperson on, getting them on board, up to speed, understanding our product range, understanding the mix of putting all of these products together and these fittings for the customer would take us an enormous amount of time. And generally speaking, it would take us about 12 months to get a BDM up to speed of having a good understanding of our product range, enough to have that real confidence to actually speak the language that they need to speak to these engineers that they're actually selling the product to. And that's a concern to me because it takes us a while to actually become familiar with a new sales rep. And to do that, I need to see them work. Their expertise has to be unfolding into how they've absorbed all of our information. And if I've forgotten something to explain, that will delay the actual onboarding process. So that was a real key criteria for us to look at a simplified system that could actually enable us to shorten the time turnaround of a person starting with us to being confidently out there selling. The other thing too we really looked at was you needed to have all this expertise to sell our products, which was all human related. So it was their knowledge that meant that went with that, and we needed to connect that up. And if they forgot that step, well, then I had an error that could come into play when we're putting this through the factory. which would mean I'm delivering a product that wasn't fit for purpose. So for me, it was really reliant on a single individual person at any given time. And so I really wanted to look at this more from that methodolizing approach and systemizing, so that I could have anyone that would have any sort of skill level in sales that could actually fulfill a function by going through a step-by-step process.
Totally, like risk mitigation by the sounds of things from a sales perspective.
Big time.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you implemented CPQ with Carnac Group about 12 months ago, so Salesforce CPQ. And so what has that changed for you?
Well, for us, it was, we put out this job to 3 different companies, and sort of scoped it, understanding what we wanted to get out of it and understanding what we knew of CPQ. Mm-hmm. So we'd had presentations about CPQ. We thought we knew a little bit about it. We also saw that, we've got a really simple product. Ultimately, we chose the Carnac Group because of part of the expertise and the comfort level in dealing with them. But what we found in that whole 12-month period was that we took an onboarding program from 12 months of a new salesperson, because of the way that we've implemented CPQ, and simplified things from the salesperson's perspective down to about 3 months. So we've significantly shortened this onboarding. They didn't need to be out there in the market for 12 months to have that same expertise. What that also meant is that average quote time pre-CPQ was running around that 3-hour mark. And it was a lot of paper shuffling and getting information left, right, and center. We now have an average turnaround time of actually sitting there doing these quotes of 20 minutes. So if you actually extrapolate that out, that's actually a huge saving in our time and energy. And what it also means is that because I can get more efficiency there, it means I don't need to necessarily put on more salespeople to go through and quote up as many jobs as what we possibly can in the future. So ultimately saves us time, energy, and money in the future as well. The other thing too we found is that I could immediately move away from looking for sales engineers as my recruitment, because it really does limit my pool of people. And I was able to go out there and look for just talented salespeople, people that understood the sales process. I could then train them on our product mix and train them on our actual systems of how to actually step through the buying process. With that too, one thing that we didn't really know about CPQ, which actually is probably one of our favorite things, there's a lot of them, was really that every single product code that we have, and we have hundreds of product codes, they also now have associated to them documents. So a salesperson can key in a product code, and we have a data sheet that's attached, or a specification sheet that's attached to a code. We have an installation guide attached to that code. We have a drawing attached to that code, and a whole heap of other things. Now, what that means to us is that I used to have all these disparate systems, whether it was SharePoint or whether it was on some sort of K drive in our system, where people would have to go and find information from a particular product. What we would end up doing is putting everything related back to a code on Salesforce, on CPQ. Well, what that meant is that if a salesperson's sending out a quote document, it actually then preempts it and says, right, you've got this particular code in the actual document to be sending to the customer. Would you like to attach the data sheet, the drawing, the installation guide, et cetera, et cetera? Now, what that meant to us was that we had the latest information. The rep didn't have to go out and find any more, and that they could send that quickly to the customer, fully 100% accurate. And that for us was absolutely gold, because we knew the customer was getting the right information at the right time, and it was good. It gave us control. And the other thing too we found is that we could eliminate email chain, and that was awesome. The other thing we found that when we embarked on this program with CPQ and Carnac is that we were actually able to then put in auto approvals in our discounting structure. So again, I was able to limit the thinking of the salesperson. They didn't need to think. Everything was pre-set up. The rules were set up. If they needed something approved, whether it was from engineering input or whether it was from the sales manager to approve, it would automatically go to the right person, and that approval process would have to be fulfilled before they could get to the next stage. that gave us an enormous amount of control, which is fantastic, because what it actually meant, we've actually noticed our gross margin increase in the last 12 months because we have been able to control the price point that the sales reps were going out at, which is fantastic. So it pays for itself in seconds from our perspective. So all up, that 12 months have been massive learning for us, to the point where we're now actually going through another remodeling program with Carnac, and just absolutely love it. It's the best thing.
Well, that is just music to my ears, Phil. And, you know, you're hearing things like reducing the time that it takes for you guys to produce a quote, reducing the time that it takes for your salespeople to get up to speed, and being able to get out there in the field and make those technical sales to a technical customer base without necessarily being a technical expert themselves. That's all fantastic. You know, the documents that you can access on the go, just wonderful. So I guess pretty happy customer by the sounds of things. So what would you say to any business that's thinking about getting Salesforce CPQ for quoting?
Personally, I wouldn't hesitate. We've actually recommended people, some businesses that we actually know. We've recommended them actually to Carnac. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but we have, purely because from our perspective, it's a tool that you need to understand your business, and you need to understand how this tool works. And this is what I really enjoyed working with Carnac. And I'm not saying it because I'm being interviewed by you guys, but it's the confidence is that I'm actually going through another iteration with you. But what I really appreciated going through this process is IT. I'm not an IT person. What I found is IT is a little bit of smoke and mirrors for a non-IT person. But what I found with Carnac, with the team that actually helped my integration, because I was very hands-on in this process. We did a lot of backroom stuff that actually assisted it. But what I found is that it was the ability for Carnac to actually understand where we were coming from, because we painted a picture. We then had to look at, okay, is that CPQ able to do it to a degree of out of the box, or how much do we need to modify it? And by having you guys actually really look at our business and trying to get understanding of it, because it can seem a little bit complicated, that actually gave us a better result in the end. We didn't get everything 100% perfect, because it was part of, we had to use it to understand it. And that's why 12 months later, we're actually going into another iteration of it. But if you're like us and you do require some controls, you do need to put those processes in place. You do have a manufacturing program that requires, you know, add-ons to be put onto products. It's not just simply this box gets sold with no other things. This is the program that you need to really look at. So yeah, I totally recommend it. Just really, you know, explore it.
Well, that's great. Okay, so you've heard him, guys. If you're thinking about using CPQ and what it can do for your business, get in touch. Phil Collins from Polymaster, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate having you here today.
Thanks, Amelia. Appreciate it.